Right. Okay, everybody. Thank you very much for joining us on tonight's GPS training clinic. Technology is working, which is fantastic because we've got Tom with us, who's a Garmin guy, and he's over in the northwest of England, aren't you, Tom? So this is how you spend your evening. So welcome everybody to the GPS training clinic this evening. We're in Northumberland, Andy and I in Northumberland, and Tom from Garmin Sales is over in the northwest of England. So fingers crossed the technology holds up. It's the first time we've done it. We thought we'd save Tom a journey of driving to northeast of England and overnight stay in another hotel. So thanks everybody who sent us questions already. We had loads of people send questions, so thank you very much for that. But again, feel free to ask questions as we go on, and we'll try and answer those. We're also going to put a recording of this on YouTube at the end. So if you're not a Facebook user, please just there's no need to worry. We're going to put it on YouTube and send a link to everybody. And for you people who are watching us on Facebook, Andy and Tom don't even know this, but I've got a little treat for the Facebook people. So stay on at the end, and I've got a little treat for you. So when we finish, that's when we'll stop the YouTube recording. I'm going to stay online for another 2 or 3 minutes, and I've got a little treat for you guys, a little offer for you to take up. So that's something for the YouTube live watchers. So appreciate that, because without you watching it live, we want to have a GPS training clinic. So without further ado, let's get on with the second ever GPS training clinic. No questions live online yet, so what we're going to do is just jump to, we've got so many questions being sent out through via email, so I'm going to jump to some of those, and we can answer those. So Margaret McClune has said, hi, my GPS has stopped displaying the OS maps. I get totally white screen with just a route. What do I need to do, please? It works fine until just a few days ago. Thank you, Margaret. So I'm going to give it straight to Andy, and Andy hopefully can answer that question for us.
What we're assuming has happened, Margaret, with your GPS device, it will have came with the maps on a micro SD card that go in the back of the unit. Now, if that micro SD card is not sitting in the back of your unit or has become dislodged or loose, your unit's not reading the maps, and that's why you're just seeing a very basic screen. Don't know if you're watching tonight, Margaret, but for anyone who is on Facebook, I'm just holding up the back of a Garmin unit just to give you an idea what I'm talking about. So on the back of a Garmin unit, where your batteries go, you take your batteries out, you see a little metal clip, and there's a micro SD card that has your Ordnance Survey maps on that sit behind that metal clip. So it's just making sure that the micro SD card's in there and the clip's locked in place. We recommend a little bit of sellotape over the metal clip so you don't accidentally catch the clip and open it and lose your micro SD card. So I suspect, Margaret, that's what's happened. Your micro SD card is not in the back of the unit or not sitting in correctly.
Fantastic. Brilliant. That's brilliant. Okay. Look at that one. Okay, thank you, Andy. That is very much appreciated. Next question is from Linda Clark. I'm going to direct this directly to Tom, so be prepared for this one. Tom, this is a nice, easy one. This one. How do I find a 10-figure reference on my eTrex Touch 35 piece? And that says, thanks, Linda.
So there's 2 ways really to find the grid reference. The first thing to check is that the grid reference is set up to British Grid on the GPS, and you can do that by going through into the settings to make sure that it's set to give you an OS grid reference and not lat long or one of the other grid references. You guys set up all the units, I think, before they leave you, don't you? So that they're ready to go for the UK. And then the 2 ways that you can do it are to go to the satellite page, which is at the bottom of the main menu, and you'll get your 10-figure grid reference there. Or the other way, which I prefer, is to set up a data field on the trip computer, and the numbers are a bit bigger there, so you can see it clearer when you're out walking on the hill.
That's fantastic. Brilliant. All right, I've just got a thanks for that, Thomas. Very much appreciated. We've got a live question in from Benedict Meller. I think you can read that. Andy said, got to admit that making length measurements can be a nuisance at the latest measurement covers up some of the track that I am trying to measure. Is there a fix for this? So you get just the final total length of the route. So I think this must be referring to using Garmin Basecamp, Andy.
Yeah, it'll be, is it a Garmin unit first that you're using, if you're able to reply? And are you talking about out in the field on the unit, Benedict, or actually on the Basecamp software? if you could let us know just a little bit more information there. So is it you measuring the route on the software Garmin Basecamp if it's a Garmin unit, or on your actual GPS device?
You can let us know. We can actually hopefully answer that question.
And then we can come back to that question if you can let us know.
Okay.
And if you are using the Basecamp software, whether you're using a Mac or Windows computer.
So we can answer that, Benedict. That's brilliant. We'll come back. We'll come back to that question when we get the answer, Benedict. We'll jump on to another one, which is a good one. There's a guy called Duncan. Duncan has yeah. Sorry, Benedict's come back. So we'll jump back to Benedict. Benedict says she's using Garmin Basecamp, Andy. So
yeah, and is it Basecamp for Mac or Windows, Benedict?
Tension, as Benedict answers. Do you want to answer, Andy, if it's Windows first, then we'll change the results.
Yeah, I haven't got a computer in front of us, Benedict, so it might be something we email you if we can't give you the full answer now, because we're not sitting with a computer in front of us. But when you're actually planning I'm assuming it's planning a route or a track in Basecamp software, and you want to see the total length of that route, what you can do when you start drawing out the track, brilliant. So when you start drawing out the track on Windows, so you're using the new track tool along the top, what you can do in the bottom left-hand window where your track starts to appear, the name of your track, if you double-click on that track, it's like a footprint icon symbol, and you get the properties box open on your screen, you can sort of drag the corners of that track properties box so it's to the side of the map screen and out of the way, and what you'll see is as you start drawing your track out, the total distance of your track will start to appear in the properties box as you draw out. That's the only way I can think of easily doing that, other than obviously you do the track and then when you're finished you double click on the track box, which is probably what you've been doing, and look at it, the length. So I'm assuming, Benedict, you're wanting to see what the length is as you produce it.
That's brilliant. Hopefully that's answered the question. Okay, brilliant. Hopefully.
And yes, we can email that through to you if you let us know your email address, Benedict.
That's brilliant. Thank you very much for that, Benedict. It's glad for the live question there. Okay, next question is Duncan, who's one of we've loaned him a InReach, which is the Garmin 2A satellite communications. Duncan has actually built his own boat and he's rowing across the Atlantic in this boat. So he's been borrowing our InReach to do some trials. So he's asking the question. I'll direct this one to Tom, and hopefully you can help him out. So he said, "Hi, just got a quick question. Hope to see the GPS training clinic on Thursday. If not, I'll see the replay later on when because he's going to row the Atlantic in May between 90 and 100 days. So he's going to row the Atlantic. He said, what would be best set up for tracking, as I presume I need to keep it on the whole time to get a constant track. Think the InReach has a long using power, so would it be best to top up after a few days during daylight hours when you've got solar panels? And then he talks a little bit about another product, Tom, which is a yellow brick, which you might know something about. So first of all, will he use it live for tracking, and how long approximate will the battery life on the InReach?
Yeah, so it needs to be switched on and connected to the satellites and to the Iridium system to do the live tracking. I think the official battery life is about 50 to 100 hours on tracking, depending on how much you've used the screen and activated it. I think you guys have had some experience of using it with your holidays, haven't you, and getting a full weekend out of it?
Yeah, we can get, I know that Garmin say, what's Garmin say, about 5 to 6 days, but we're getting like every couple of days we're charging it. We're using it quite intensely. Every couple of days we've been charged that InReach, and it's been working very well. So I would be charging it, especially because he's using solar panels. He'd be using it every couple of days. He'd be charging it, I think.
Yeah, and the tracking wise and the charging wise, it only takes a couple of hours to charge up. It's quite fast to actually charge the battery, so you'll be able to do that easily, topping it up every day or every other day. It's
good, yeah. If anybody's been onto our Facebook page, there's actually I think it was Sunday. I put a picture up. He's been rowing around the coast of Scotland. He has, so it's quite good. He seems to be a top bloke, so that's good. Brilliant. All right. So thanks for answering Duncan's questions. We've got no other live questions, so we'll roll on to Dennis Stanyland, to Andy. Yeah, he actually said this is quite hard for us to see this because he sent a couple of attachments. He says, I've attached 2 files of the track I created using Garmin Basecamp from my home to Malvern in Worcestershire, Worcester Beacon, sorry. The original GPX file and an Excel file derived from using the .gps and XLS converter. You will see that the altitude is shown starting at 74 metres and climbing 228 metres, whereas the actual figures should be 93 metres, start climbing 425 metres. I've used Garmin Basecamp previously to plan routes successfully. Can you tell me what I'm doing wrong? Thanks for your help with the training videos and emails provided. Regards, Dennis Stanningland. So, Andy?
Right, Dennis. So when you create a route or a track, you said you're creating a track in Garmin's Basecamp software. The elevation data for that track is taken from data built into whatever map you're planning on. I'm assuming, Dennis, you've got Ordnance Survey mapping from Garmin. So if you've got the Ordnance Survey 1 to 50 mapping from Garmin, the contour lines are spaced out further than a 1 to 25 map. So you're not going to have as detailed what Garmin called DEM, which is their digital elevation map profile on that 1 to 50 map. So it's just really as a guide when you plan the route on a 1 to 50 map. If you had the 1 to 25 map on Basecamp software when you plan it, the elevation data will obviously be a bit more accurate because the contour lines on a 1 to 25 map are closer together. But one thing to bear in mind, when you've actually planned your track or route and sent it to your Garmin GPS, when you're out walking with the GPS, your GPS, actually I'm not 100% what GPS you've got, Dennis, but if you've got one of the Garmin devices that have a barometric altimeter and you go into your settings and calibrate your barometric altimeter from setup and altimeter before you start your walk, when you actually do your walk, your actual physical walk using the track, your GPS device will actually then record the height data from the barometric altimeter. It'll be interesting to see when you finished your walk and come back and plug it back into your computer and compare what you've actually created in advance with the actual recording and just compare the figures. So it's just basically the data's taken from the maps themselves, and I think that's what you're seeing. So hopefully if you've got a unit with a barometric altimeter, you'll be able to go out and actually do the walk and then look at the track when you come back from the actual GPS device.
Brilliant. All right, cheers, Andy, for that. I'm going to jump to a live question. I don't know if Tom can see it. Sally McCouvel. Where would you get a new micro SD card if I lose one? Reference to the first question. So I'll send that over to Tom because he will help us out with Garmin. If you lose the map card, Tom, what options have customers got?
They can speak to Garmin customer support, and they can sometimes track the serial number on them. And hopefully, if it's within a year, sometimes we'll be able to re-register a new card for you. It really does depend on the circumstances, but we can sometimes help you out from that side.
But Andy's top tip again before is put a little bit of sellotape across it, then you don't need to fall out, do you? So and that's the best thing to do, really, with that.
And obviously, at GPS training on our GPS store, we do sell separately the map cards under the GPS store and Garmin mapping. We have the 1 to 50 map cards available, which are currently reduced, actually. Yeah. And we've got the 1 to 25 map cards available. So we can sell you a new map card. But that's a great suggestion of Tom's, that if it's within a year and you can give them the serial number of your GPS, there's a chance they may be able to track down that and redo a card for you.
Brilliant. All right, Tom, thank you very much for that. Colin Harvey, this is live on Facebook as well. Is there a way to differentiate a waypoint when they are marked rather than renaming them Touch 25? Andy?
Yeah, on your Touch 25, Colin, when you use the mark waypoint icon, I've got a Touch 25 with me at the moment. So when you touch on the mark waypoint on your Touch 25, you get a screen up that gives you your current location and an option with a little tick symbol to save it. But in the very top left of the screen that comes up, Colin, when you touch on the mark waypoint, you have the icon that's going to be saved on the map page. You can touch on that icon and select from a massive list by scrolling left and right of different icons, which there's all sorts of choices from flagship symbols to glasses of beer if you're marking a nice pub or something. Also, I'm sure you're aware of this, on the very top right of the screen again, when you select mark waypoint, the next numeric number comes up on the eTrex Touch. You can actually touch on that number and then a keypad comes up and you can type a short name for that waypoint and then hit the little tick symbol to save it. So I hope that answers your question, that you can change the icon as well as changing the name when you save it.
Brilliant. Fantastic. Thank you very much for that, Andy. Okay, Benedict's come back online with another question. So another question for Garmin Oregon 700, I suspect it's an Oregon 700. Should you save the tracks to the unit or to the SD card? I normally save to the unit. So I'll hand that over to Tom. So saving your tracks onto the unit or on the micro SD card?
Definitely 100% saving to the unit. I'm sure Andy's going to agree with me here. And if you start messing around with the SD card, there's the OS mapping, you risk corrupting it slightly in different ways, and that can cause bigger problems. So just saving to the units have got more than enough memory to save as much tracks as you want to them. So
yeah, I mean, in 700, I'm sure you agree with this as well, Tom. They've changed the length of the tracks now from the older GPSs. So with an Oregon 700, it's the memory in the unit will save up to 200 tracks, and each of those tracks can have up to 20,000 points, whereas an older unit it's 10,000 points. So you can save up to 200 tracks on the internal storage and up to 20,000 points per track. So hopefully that would be enough for you, Benedict, to get going. And then obviously when you come back home, you plug it into your computer and you transfer those tracks out using Garmin Basecamp.
That's fantastic, brilliant. Colin's on Facebook. He's just received his eTrex Touch 25 today from ourselves. Many thanks. I both only received Touch 25 today. Thanks. So it's great that your GPS has arrived today, and he's live on the GPS clinic this evening. So that's fantastic, brilliant. Okay. Another question, Colin Harvey. Another question. I've imported the .gpx file from my dog tracker into Basecamp Mac, and they don't seem to line up, yet they do on Google My Maps. Oh, it's not really our field, the dog trackers. I don't know, Andy or Tom, anybody going to jump at that one?
I would say, Tom, I'm sure you agree, it's probably the accuracy of the other tracking device that's recording the track, of how it's recorded it, possibly. Let's have a look. So you're importing it from a dog tracker, and it's lining up on Google Maps. So on Basecamp, I'm assuming you're saying it's not lining up with the map you've got on Basecamp. I'm assuming that's an Ordnance Survey map, Colin.
It could be an export conversion error.
What say? Sorry, Tom.
So it could be a conversion error between the two mapping software. We'd have to have a look at the file and what it looked like on the two screens to be able to kind of give a good enough answer. But I think it potentially could be a conversion between the two as well that's causing the problem.
So we'd probably best one with that one, Colin, would be if you've got that GPX file, if you can send it on an email to office@gpstraining.co.uk, we can have a look at this end and see if we can see anything obvious. This will be the GPX file that you've taken from the dog tracker, and then we'll be able to better answer that to see if there is this conversion problem from a different tracking device. Brilliant.
Fantastic. All right, hope that answers the question. I'm going to jump to a question that has just come in today. It's just come in, it's 11:41 today by Daryl Shook. So it says, hi guys, apologies, I won't be able to tune in to the GPS clinic tonight. I plan to catch up with it on the website /YouTube. My question revolves around buying my second GPS unit. I have an eTrex 10, basic, useful, but doesn't give me paperless geocaching, maps to follow when cycling and occasional walk out in the wild. So I've been looking at the eTrex Touch 25 and 35. The 25 seems to do all that I want to do. Spending the extra on the 35 would be more advantageous for the connectivity and barometric altimeter. He's done his homework, hasn't he, this guy? Or is there a alternative? My main interest would be paperless geocaching and cycling to get them on plus geocaching while on holiday. So topography maps would be great. The cost of 35 is at the top end of my range. Your informed advice would be welcome. Many thanks in anticipation, Daryl. I'll jump straight to Andy and see what you would recommend for Daryl for his geocaching.
Right, Daryl. Within your budget, then, I'm not going to go for a higher price unit. So obviously, we'll stick with the 25 and Touch 35 units. Great little compact units to use for cycling, walking, and geocaching. Both of them will do the job for you. As you've found, they've both got topographic mapping that covers all of Europe. So trips abroad, brilliant. Excellent mapping for cycling. So they're both going to do the job in that respect. Cycling, geocaching, they have a geocaching profile set up. The difference is, which you've spotted, on the 35, you have a altimeter. So if you're interested in seeing more accurate height data when you're out walking, cycling, in the track that you record, the 35 will give you that more accurate data from what you would get from just a standard GPS signal. That's just to do with your height. The other thing that might interest you with the 35 device, because it has Bluetooth, and especially for cyclists like this, you can sync it directly with a fitness app that Garmin do called Garmin Connect, and that allows you to share your track recordings instantly on things like Strava, social media, see information straight away about where you've cycled or walked in the Connect app. And also as a cyclist point of view, if you're ever interested in things like the cadence sensors or the speed sensors for indoor cycle training, the Touch 35 will link to those, whereas the 25 won't. So that's the extra features of the 35, what you're going to get for that little bit of extra money.
Fantastic. Do you agree with that, Tom? 25 or 30 you recommend?
Absolutely, yeah. Andy's covered the differences between the two units perfectly. So yeah, they're both great for paperless geocaching as well. So I think they'll suit him perfectly.
E-Trex touch range as well. So hold that in for us. E-Trex touch range, which is what we're talking about, which is a great GPS unit. This is one of ours actually. We use them for our walking holiday business as well. So we like great value for money, top unit, good value for money. So brilliant. All right, I'm going to jump on to a question from Ken Allinson. It's not really that much of a question, it's a bit more of a statement, so I'll direct this over to Tom. Hi, just a couple of observations as listening to your podcasts, and maybe worth passing on to some regarding the Oregon 700. If you connect to Basecamp, there is a tab there to check for updates and downloads, so it's ways that he's talking about waiting to update the GPS unit. There's one other thing I found, is if you set the display to power save, pressing the on-off button no longer opens the screen with the apps on. Is there another way of getting to the screen with the power save switch on? Had the 700 a couple of months and found your training material and webinars very useful in getting the most out of our device. Kind regards, Ken. So over to Tom. He's talking a little bit about power saving option there, and yeah. So can you help us there, Tom?
Yeah, so the tab that you talked about in Basecamp first is great. It's a great way of making sure that the units stay up to date. As you guys know, we're constantly adding features via updates or just GPS data to make sure your units are fast at getting a fix when you switch them on and keeping them up to date and keeping them bug free. On the power save mode, what the power save mode does is it turns the button into the option of switching the screen off to save the power some more, because that's the biggest drain on the battery life. If I'm right, Andy, you can slide up from the bottom to get the main menu if you've got the unit switched on. What
we tend to do, if you've got power save mode on, so the battery save mode that Ken's talking about, when you press the power button once, the screen will go off. Press the power button again, the screen will come on. The trick is when the screen's actually on, you have to tap it twice quickly, and that takes you to the bottom, what we call the bottom app menu. So what you need to do, Ken, if you're using battery save and you're finding, whereas without battery save, normally you just press the power button once to go to the bottom app drawer, you have to wait until the screen's back on and then quickly tap the button twice. There is a little bit of knack to doing it. Now, you might be interested to know, because it's a question we get asked so much about using battery save. John's just recently added to our website on the gpstraining.co.uk homepage. If you look along the top and go on the tab Training Support, the very top article is using battery save function on an Oregon 700, and I've put a video on there that shows you how you bring the screen and the main app screen on. So if you get a chance, Ken, have a look at that video.
That's fantastic. Brilliant. Cheers, Tom, and thanks, Andy, for that. Another question that just came in at 3:35 this afternoon, so it's nice that the people can relate. Hi, John, Andy, and Tom. I'm plotting multi-day routes in Spain using the freeze cart maps and do not seem to be able to find a way of finding total ascent and descent information for each route. Am I able to get a graph like you currently do on an OS map? I think that's really what he's asking for. And note that when I save a track in the field and transfer it to my computer, the total ascent and descent is shown. Is there a step I am missing? Regards, Roger Duran. So, Tom, we'll bring Andy in actually because it's open street mapping rather than Garmin. So
Hi, Roger. Yeah, basically what you've got, Tom, with the open street maps, the Freezy Cart ones, they don't have elevation data built into them. So when you actually plan your route, you won't see an elevation graph. What happens then when you go out and walk your route and then you upload your track back into Basecamp, you're then seeing the elevation that's been taken from your GPS device. If you do find GPX files on other websites that people have shared where someone's potentially been out and done a walk and you send them to your Basecamp and view over the Freezy Cart map, potentially you will have elevation data because someone else has walked it on a GPS. But that's why you're not seeing it. There's not an elevation profile built into the Freezy Cart map.
That's brilliant. Okay, and these Freezy Cart, these are open source mapping that you can put on a Garmin GPS unit, aren't they? So you can.
It's third-party mapping from another source.
That's right. Yes. So quite useful if you're going overseas. Next question, David Morgan, and I'll direct this to Andy again. He said, "Love the podcast, but a lot of people use their units abroad. So could you include any tips as to setting up a unit for going abroad? I use UTM for my orchid hunting, as this seems the most universal with European orchid hunters. But do I need to do anything else when travelling to Greece?" This could be, something we do on the podcast.
So, good question, David. So basically, on a Garmin GPS, if you're going to go abroad with your GPS, it'll work anywhere in the world as long as you've got a view of the sky and you can get a satellite reception. If you've got maps on your GPS for another country, not changing the position format won't stop those maps loading. It won't stop you recording where you walk. But what you won't see, if you go to the satellite page or you go to mark a waypoint, you won't see a grid reference if you've left it set as we would normally set it in this country as British grid. So the tip is, when you're going abroad, you go into the setup on your unit, position format, and then you get a choice of all the grid systems. Now, not every country has their own grid system. As David's found, Greece, there's not a grid system called Greece grid. You will see examples like Finnish grid, German grid, there's a Swiss grid. So it's a case of looking see if the country you're going to has grid systems in there. If it's not, sometimes it is a bit of research on the internet to find out what grid system that country's using. The one that David's mentioned, UTM, and then you use something called WGS84 map datum. That'll work in many countries. One thing you will always find in your Garmin, if when you go into setup and position format, and then touch on the top option to change from British grid and scroll right to the top of the screen, you'll see lots of options for standard longitude and latitude settings. That'll work anywhere in the world. So that's the first thing. The second part of your question, David, was, is there anything else I need to do when I'm traveling abroad? So other than changing the grid system, we always recommend, if you've traveled more than 100 miles since you last calibrated your compass, if you've got a Garmin device with an electronic compass, that you recalibrate your compass. And we have lots of videos on our online training course for each GPS unit showing you how to calibrate your compass.
Right, fantastic. All right, thank you for that. That's good. Roy Dunham has posted a question on Facebook. He says, when using hike with other Garmin users on a hike, why do we record different lengths of hike? I use a Touch 25, Roy Duncan. Tom, are you happy to answer? I know we get asked a lot, so we've got quite definitive answers.
Why different GPS devices?
Why different differences? So you got any answers there for Tom?
Yeah, absolutely. I think the favourite one I always use for this is marathons and events, which are using GPS but in a watch-based format. So unless you run on the blue line on the London Marathon, for example, you'll run more than the 26.2 miles, because the exact blue line is 26.2 miles, and it's exactly the same with your walking group. You all walk slightly different routes, and that adds a little bit. Added into that, you've got the accuracy of the GPS device as well. So your device will roam around within that accuracy area and give you a slightly different feature. So they shouldn't be miles out, but they could be a little bit out each time between each different unit.
Yeah, that's pretty. You want to add anything to Andy?
Yeah, I mean, what I'm finding, Tom, is customers are ringing me with they're in a walking group where half a dozen people have all got a different GPS. It can be different makes, so they all have slightly different aerials. And again, some GPSs can be set up to not pick up Russian satellites, some can. So there's various settings in your unit that are always going to slightly change the figure. So you're never all going to get exactly the same figure unless you've got exactly the same device with exactly the same settings in.
Yes, there's that diversity. It's interesting. Say it's something we get quite a bit from. I walk together, and it comes. Was it something this week was saying they taking two units, they walked exactly the same, and it came with exactly the same mileage. I think that was.
There was a customer last week said he had an older unit and a newer unit, and he walked with them. And after doing a 10-mile walk, there was only 100 meters difference, which is great, So but he did. There was one guy walking with him in his hand,
Yeah.
And I'm assuming he went in and made sure, even though there were slightly different GPSs, that every setting was the same.
That's brilliant. So I hope that's answered your question, Roy. A question that came in at 4:45 this evening. So I think we've kind of covered this already, Sally, but I'll go over again. Sally says, I have a Garmin Trex Touch 35, which I am gradually getting used to. I used it on a long run on Saturday and noticed that when looking at the screen to navigate, it goes off after a short time. a few seconds, and I have to press the side button again for the route to reappear. Is there a way to lengthen the time the screen stays visible for? Also, I sometimes must accidentally catch the plus and minus screens on the screen as the view, as I have, as the sometimes change. Is there a way of preventing that too? As you can probably guess, I'm not a tech person, but I am always very happy with the device, and I've managed to upload running routes to and from GPX files and get around without getting lost. On Saturday's race was 40 miles, so I'm really pleased not to get lost and add more miles on. I'll go straight to Andy because I know he's got the unit in front of him. Thanks for the question about Sally.
Hi Sally, thanks for that question. So what you're seeing on the unit when the screen completely goes off is you've got battery save turned on, which is a great function because, as we mentioned earlier, it helps save battery. Now what you can do to adjust the battery save time length to make it longer or shorter is when you've got your eTrex Touch turned on, whatever profile you're using, so let's just say for example you're using the hike profile, so you first turn it on, you're on the hike profile, you touch the 3 horizontal bars on the bottom left of the screen on the hike profile, and that goes into the settings for that profile. And if you touch on the second setting down, display, you'll then see that you've got battery save on, and you'll see a backlight timeout. It's whatever you set on the backlight timeout for how long the unit stays on or off. So if you touch on the backlight timeout, and the maximum you can set it for is 2 minutes. But that does mean your screen will stay on for 2 minutes, and then after 2 minutes, it'll go off unless you press the button on the side. Now, in answer to your question about accidentally touching something, the nice thing is, I don't know if you realise, when the screen goes off, it's like a screen lock. You can't accidentally touch anything then because the screen's locked until you press the on-off button. So I would just continue using it in the way you are and make sure that the screens went off before you put it back onto whatever method you're using to carry it with. So I hope that's okay, the answer there for you on using the backlight timeout setting in display to adjust how long the screen stays on or off.
Another thing was accidentally touching the screen when she was out running.
Oh yeah, so going back to that, Sally, the accidentally touching the screen, basically what I would say is whatever backlight timeout you've set, I would wait until the screens went off before you put it back onto whatever you're carrying, because if you're not, I'm assuming that if the screen hasn't went off and you're then putting it in a pocket or however you're carrying it, that's when you're knocking the screen. If you don't mind waiting until the screens went off, you're not going to accidentally touch anything then.
And is there also a way to lock the screen on the touch as well? Is it similar to the Oregon?
Actually, yes. I mean, a lot of customers who aren't using the battery save as a screen lock will actually use a padlock symbol. So on your unit, Sally, another thing you can do as well as battery save, if you press and release the on-off button once on your unit, you can actually, when you press the on-off button once, as long as the screen's on and it hasn't went off, you get a little white padlock symbol at the very bottom of the screen. If you touch that white padlock symbol, that locks the screen, and then you repeat the process by pressing and releasing the on-off button and touching the padlock symbol at the bottom to unlock the screen. So that's another way you can lock it for accidental touches.
And the other one as well, when we look at locking the screen, the big unit for that was the Oregon 600 and 650 range, wasn't it? Because on the touches and also the 700s, a lot of the screens are automatic. Well, the map screen's automatically locked, isn't it? And you have to press a little dot on it. But on some of the Oregon 600 and 650, it's quite key to lock that screen and do that. So, do you want to add anything to that, Tom? Or are you happy with that answer?
No, that sounds great.
Fantastic. Very good. Oh, we're flying through the questions tonight. I know Tom's going to leave us in 10 minutes, so I hope you don't mind, Tom. We've got a little sat map question here. We're not all Garmin orientated, so
no.
Go for it. Margaret, SatMap Active 12 user to Andy, says, my map page is cluttered with old routes. Is there any way I can get rid of all the routes on my map page and the grey dots so the screen looks cluttered with these in place?
Yeah. On a SatMap unit, when you get a SatMap unit in from SatMap, one of the default settings on the unit it's a screen called Set Trip Data. It tells you that the default setting is show all active routes. So what that basically means, Margaret, if you're in an area where you've got lots of routes that you've planned and sent to the unit in that same area, you'll see them all on the screen, even though you're not navigating those routes and it looks very cluttered. What we do at GPS Training, before we send out any units that we sell, we put our recommended settings in. So our recommended setting for the SatMap Active 12, actually all of the SatMap units, the Active 10, 12, or Active 20, is that from your main menu, Margaret, you go into Settings, And when you go into settings, there's an option called set trip data. If you select set trip data, you'll see the very top box. At the minute, yours will say show all active routes. Using your joystick left or right, you select hide inactive routes, and then the only route you'll see on the screen is the one that you've selected to navigate with. So you want basically from settings, set trip data, and the top box you want to select as hide inactive routes. So I hope that helps with the sat map question there, Margaret. Thank you.
That's brilliant. Okay, well, I think that's all the questions answered. I don't know if any, have I missed anything, Tom? I don't know if you can see anything on the screen that I've missed. Have you? Can you see anything, Tom?
So. No, I don't think so.
A minute or two, and then we'll see how we go on, because we've gone through all our questions that people have sent us. We've answered all our live questions.
I did see Benedict, you asked the question about the seeing your route length as you plan a route. I think your internet cut off, and you've asked about us emailing you a solution. If you don't mind, Benedict, if you could email us your contact details at office@gpstraining.co.uk, and then we'll get your email address. If you just put your question again on an email, and then I can reply back to you, if that's okay, Benedict.
That's brilliant. Fantastic. So we've rattled through all those questions. I hope you've enjoyed tonight's live GPS training. So many thanks for watching and taking part in this, the second ever GPS training clinic. If you bought a GPS unit from ourselves, you know you get this great technical support every day of the week. So again, if you've got any technical questions and you bought your GPS unit from us, just email techsupport@gpstraining.co.uk, and please remember to put in what's called your GPST or your SW reference number, and then we know who you are and we can look back on our records. I'm sorry, if you've not got a unit from us, you can't just randomly email us questions, and really they've got to go to Garmin Support. Garmin Support number, Tom, off the top of your head, do you know?
I can find it for you. Give me a second.
All right. So I'll come back to the Garmin Support number if you've got that. Okay. If you've got a unit from us, you know we have what's called the GPS Training Online Resource, which is our online training area. Again, if you got a unit from us, it's the best place. There's loads of videos. Andy spends half his life creating videos for the online resource. Have a look in there. And if you didn't get a unit from us, it's just £25 a year for that. Tom, have we got the Garmin helpline number?
So the number is 023 8052 4000, or if you go to the support centre on the website, you can put in your serial number or product name, and you can go through some shortcut, some troubleshooting stuff before you contact us or send us an email.
That's fantastic.
On SatMap's website, if you haven't bought your SatMap from us, obviously we don't do the support if we haven't sold a unit. SatMap.com website, they've got a support section that you can click on, and they like you to email the questions. But as John said, remember, if you've bought a unit from GPS Training, you get that telephone and email support for free. So please contact us with your unique GPST reference number that was on the front of the letter you got with your unit, or your SW number if you bought it from our sister company, Shepherd's Walks.
That's fantastic. And don't forget to have a look at our website, which is gpstraining.co.uk, and you'll find lots of information on there as well. So many thanks to Tom for joining us this evening. Tom, thank you.
Thank you.
And also Andy for joining us, which wouldn't be anything without Andy sat here in Northumberland next to us. And and thanks again for joining us live on Facebook, and have a good evening, whatever you're going to do. Thank you.
Thank you.